Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of Rent Free. If you're watching the video episode, you'll notice right away that there's a gigantic whiteboard right next to me, and that will be a part of our episode later, so get excited about that. We will be talking about business planning. I promise it's kind of fun, at least if you like organizing or strategy. I don't really know what you want to call it. I just am a goal-oriented person. It motivates me for the future. It makes me excited about accomplishing things, and that's how I get to the next thing. So I don't know if you're like that, then maybe you want to listen to what I have to say today. Before we get into the business plan, I think this week honestly has been so chaotic because we actually adopted a kitten finally. I think that also the holidays have been just all over the place. I know we were off last week for Thanksgiving, meaning there was no podcast, and I definitely took advantage of that. I was with family. I did a Thanksgiving with my dad, with my mom, with Dan's family. We did one with my grandparents. So it was just a lot, but in the best way. I was really glad to see everybody and just see people that I wouldn't typically see during the week, which it was also like a light work week, and it was nice to just be home and everything. And then the end of the week, we ended up getting the approval for a kitten, and he's so sweet. He just like purrs all the time, and he's just the loveliest little boy. And I feel terrible because our older cat is kind of territorial, and she just like hisses at him right now, is just having a harder time adjusting, we'll say. And I knew that she would, but she's actually doing a lot better than I thought. She is very curious about him, but it is taking a longer time warming up. And he is just like the best thing ever. Very excited to be alive. And his name is Boss, which is short for Bruce Springsteen. If you know, Bruce Springsteen is like, he goes by the Boss. That's like his nickname or whatever. And we name our animals after musicians, so that's why. And it's funny because he like kind of has a grumpy looking face, so it just is like the Boss, like just is funny. But other than that, I think really nothing else has been going on. We've just been hanging out. We've been with family. I think that we can start talking about the business planning stuff. And before I get into this, I feel like I want to give a disclaimer because I genuinely, like, this is the first time that I've ever intentionally business planned something. And I think that there's a few reasons for that. I mean, like, the prior years, I was a student. This is my first year not being a student, my first new year not being a student too. And so every year that comes around, I mean, and this is not an excuse, I probably should have had a business plan regardless, but each year that would come around, it would be like, oh, I would be doing my winter break from classes. And so that was the last thing that was on my mind. I'm not like business planning for Q1 during my break off of school. But now I, go to work and I do my things, and I'm excited for Q1, and I'm excited to reach my goals and grow. And a few weeks ago, I told you guys about this meeting I had with my team, or a few members on my team, where we kind of just strategized and we talked goals, and it was really motivating for me, and also just kind of like cool to hear how other people work and how they do their business and what kind of things work for them and what don't. And not because I want to use what they do, but just because I think it's, insightful. And also because I think it's like interesting that there's so many different things that work for people. And, they can't work for everybody, but like everybody has their kind of niche, which is just fascinating. But anyway, that day I had kind of like a rough draft list of goals that I wanted to expand on, and I read them to you guys in the rent-free segment of the beginning of the episode, and I just kind of shared them lightly and like explained kind of where I was coming from with those goals. And I have, received a few DMs from you guys, one being that, you guys share with a lot of the things I've said, and I think that's really cool. So, keep those coming. I love to just kind of shoot the show with you guys and hear what you have to say, but also hearing you guys say that it inspired you to talk about your goals and to just kind of put them on paper too. So that is why I am doing part 2 to that, which is the expansion of the goals, because as I said in that episode, you can write as many goals down on a piece of paper as you want to, but they're not going to happen unless you put forth the effort to put a plan together, right? Like you can say you're going to go to the moon this year, but that's not going to happen unless you're like doing things to go to the moon, right? I highly suggest getting a notebook or something just for like drafting thoughts and things. For me, I'm a very type A person. I like pretty things. I like things to look nice. That's the whiteboard's purpose, right? And that's where my things are going to look pretty. But this notebook's purpose exists so I can throw all of my thoughts on a page and figure out what I want and figure out my plan so that when I put it on the pretty thing, it looks nice. And so that's kind of what I do when I draft things. And I've really been going through all my finances, going through all of my business stuff, just really combing through everything because, as I've mentioned multiple times, like this is the first time I've had like this lull where I feel like I'm like, okay, I'm a stable human in life and I can do things now. But the way that I did this, and I am not saying again that means you have to do it this way, but the way that I did it was I started by just writing the things down that I was hoping for, right? Like, for example, some of the goals that I talked about in the last episode were reaching 200,000 followers on TikTok, maintaining my CRM, hosting a homebuyer happy hour. Okay, so those are just a few of the goals. Selling 12 houses at least or more, I guess. And so I put all those on a piece of paper, right? And then I wanted to start looking at those goals and just kind of trying to find common denominators. And so I started picking out things and putting them into categories. And I was like, what are the few things that stand out about each of these? And what I found was that they fit into 4 main columns, which were marketing, social media, sales volume, and investing. And this way, pulling them into those categories is really nice because not only does it make them look more organized, but in your mind, it's nice because not only are you working on that goal itself, but it's a piece of this pie, if you will, that's like your entire marketing, right? And if you have 4 goals in the marketing pie, you know, you're working on a lot of marketing stuff. It's like interesting to note that you have that much stuff that you're working on in that area. And it's just helpful to have record of for moving forward and stuff like that too. So all in all, I have 3 marketing goals. I have 3 social media goals, 1 investing goal, and 1 sales volume goal. So that's how I categorize them. The next step of my business plan or business outline, I don't know which to call it. I don't even know if either of those things technically describes what I'm talking about right now, but we're going to pretend that it does because that's kind of what I'm feeling like I'm doing right now. So the next step of that, and loosely, I say very loosely, I'm using what's called the SMART method, SMART goals. When you use, it's an acronym, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. It's kind of like a framework that helps you stay in line and helps you achieve your goals. And if you use a SMART goal, you're supposed to like 99% of the time achieve that goal. I used to use these in therapy sessions with teenagers and kids all the time because, like I was saying at the beginning of this episode, it's really easy to set a goal. Anyone can do that. But to achieve it is another thing. And so I don't necessarily write out the acronym and put each step out on a piece of paper, but I think about this and kind of try to base my plans around this and think about what barriers might be in the way and kind of like, is this realistic for me in this next year? And am I being overly ambitious? Or is this something that I have to kind of do over time because there's other things in the way? Like I mentioned, the barriers. Let's talk about the TikTok following thing. So I reached 100,000 followers on TikTok in, I think, February of 2023. So it's been almost 2 years since I've reached 100,000 followers. And I'm at 125,000 followers now, which is amazing. And I love every second of my following, but I would love some growth. And, that's common across all of my goals, right? Like that's the same. I'm looking for growth this year. And so, and it's not that I'm not willing to work for it. I am. But my plan for doing that goal is that I want to sit down and really, get a spreadsheet together, get some ideas ironed out. And for me, I know that if I try to keep myself on a schedule for posting, if I try to really do something super technical, I'm not going to stick to it. That's too much for my lifestyle. My TikTok has always been very supplemental. I record them in the car. I record them on the go. I record them when I have 5 seconds here or there. So if I started making myself do it at 6 a.m. every day for 5 minutes, I would not do that. It's just not how it has ever been for me. But what I do know is that I can record 1 TikTok a day. I can tell myself every day, you're going to record 1 TikTok a day. And if I have that reminder in my head, I'll know that when there's an opportunity, whether I'm in the car or on the go or doing whatever, that I will stop to record a TikTok. And so I should have an idea list going. And so that's what my spreadsheet's going to be for, not to like make me stop and do it, but just to have the ideas. Because that definitely hinders me from posting when I don't have something to post about. The second thing that I have underneath that goal is that I want to sort of authenticate my profile and start shifting my content to be more lifestyle. And I mean more catered towards myself. I don't mean like me. I just mean I want you guys to know me more. I want my content to be a little bit more centered around myself. Like I hate how that sounds, but I don't know. There's only so much I can share about real estate. And I think sometimes I feel like my content is a bit redundant. Like I've shared a lot of this stuff over and over again. And I want to start, more day in my lives and more like come along with me videos and get ready with me. And this is my routine for this. And I think that's a lot easier to be sustainable too. And so those are the actionable items underneath that goal that I will be working on regularly. So I have a plan. I have the things that I'm going to be doing weekly, those check-ins to make sure that daily I'm posting, I'm creating ideas, I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's how I'll be growing my account. So my problem this past year was that I'd go days, maybe even weeks sometimes without posting. And of course, your account's not growing when that's happening. Or, I was maybe not being creative with my content or just an array of different things. And this will allow me to be a lot more consistent. That's just one example of the goals that I have and how I kind of step it out to actionable steps and how I will actually achieve that goal. And so you can do it in whatever way you want to. For me, I kind of just put the goal in the middle and start spider webbing it out of like what things I need to do in order to do that and how it's realistically going to work. And I always use that word realistic because I used to do things like where I would be like, oh yeah, no worries. I'll just get up at 5 a.m. every day just to like work out. And then I'll, do this and this and this and this. And then it's like, that is not realistic for you, girl. You cannot stay up for 14 hours or, do whatever crazy thing it was that I would try to do. But other than that, I think that really you're just wanting to focus on, whatever is the most effective plan for yourself. And that is another reason that I emphasize, not utilizing someone's plan just because they say it works, but really kind of leaning into knowing yourself and knowing what has worked for you in the past. I mean, you've been a student before, probably. You've been in school before, probably. Like you've planned stuff, you've done homework and projects, you know what works for you. And so lean into those things and pull from that in order to make your plan. That's what I do for sure. And I know kind of how my brain works. Like I'm very type A. I like my spreadsheets. I like my little folders and things. And that's how I like to keep things organized. So without further ado, I think that I can show you guys my actual like full on plan, which is on the board. It's not really all that exciting because unfortunately, like half of it is going to be filled in after this video because it's going to be client information. Like it's going to be actual client updates, and I'll explain why in a second. But I didn't want to put that on camera, obviously, because I didn't want to share their personal information with you guys. But it will look a lot cooler, I think, in, a few minutes when I get to fill the rest in. Oh, I'm going to post this on my my Instagram too, just in case, or probably on, I'm posting this on TikTok too. But as you guys can see, the top has the goals, and those 4 categories that I mentioned are what are labeled in color. And so we have investments, we have social media, we have sales volume, and I can't read the other one. What does it say again? Oh, investing? Oh, marketing. And so underneath each category, it lists out the goals, just so obviously this is going to be right next to my desk. I can just see my goals every day. And then directly underneath the goals, I have pictures of houses drawn. I know they're not the best, but they'll do the trick, so don't worry about it. But underneath each house is a number, because if you remember, my sales volume goal was selling at least 12 houses. You guys know real estate's not my full-time job. Like if it was, my sales volume goal would probably be a lot higher. But anywho, I like to physically see like a representation of my goals sometimes. Like if it's, fill in the, what is that called? Why can I not think of that? When you, like a meter or whatever. Anywho, so whenever I go under contract on a house, I'm going to be writing the address in here or coloring in the house or doing whatever that is. And then in the middle, it just says 2025 business outline. I just thought that was a cute name for this. And then at the very bottom, I kind of split this in half. So the last half is where really all the fun stuff is going to be going on. And I once again split this into 3 categories. And like I said, fully customizable. I did clients, under contract, and reminders. So the reason for that is just because in my CRM, I label clients as people that I am like literally just like working with that week. Like I am showing them houses, I'm listing their house, I'm looking at rentals with them. Like there's someone that I have a search open for that we are looking at houses. So that's someone that I want to be like following up with that week. So that's why they're on that client list. Because when I come into my office, I want to see their name. So I remember, hey, I need to reach out to them to check in. The under contract is obviously just to keep tabs on the property that's under contract, because there's a lot to do with those properties. And then the reminders is because oftentimes in my CRM, I'll put notes and things in, because there will be people that will be like, oh, my credit's not so great right now, but I want to buy in the middle of 2025 or during this month, or my lease is up this month, but I want to buy after or whatever. So I keep notes on that, but I want to put those on the board just so that I have that visual again, and that I don't forget, because again, it's kind of hard to keep track of in the CRM for some reason for me. It's just not something that I check as often as like something, I don't know why. I just don't. And I'm, that's on my list. That's one of my goals. So we'll be working on that this year too. But anyway, that's basically it. I mean, this is as aesthetically pleasing as it gets on a whiteboard for me. It's going to be right over behind my camera, and I'm excited to use it. It's inspiring to me, and maybe it'll inspire you guys to make a little business plan for yourselves too. There weren't any questions on the form this week, but I am in the mood to answer a question. So I'm going to go on TikTok and see what the last question that was asked was, and we'll just answer that one. Okay, someone said, I stalked a little and saw that you went to school while being a realtor. Was it hard finding a balance between the two? I'm becoming a realtor and start school in January, and I'm nervous to juggle both. So it's a great question. I have like 2 answers to this because of the fact, do I say that to every question every single week? I literally am like, oh, this is a loaded question every single time. The reason I have 2 answers is because I have been 2 different kinds of students. This time I feel like my double answer is valid. So I went to undergrad in Virginia, and I was not licensed in Virginia. So I couldn't practice real estate at the same time. I went to school 5 hours away. And so I was just doing real estate on summers and winter break. So it was like very much so I was in college, I was doing college, I was in a sorority, I was living on campus, doing the whole thing. And then I would come home and I would be like full-time realtor, selling houses, doing the thing, go back to school. But then when I graduated, I purposefully went to grad school in Maryland, one, for in-state tuition, but two, because I wanted to continue selling real estate and like pay my way through grad school, which is what I did. So I went to Towson and I worked full-time as a realtor too. And that was figuring out a balance, because obviously grad school is a lot in itself. I had an internship and all of that too, and a graduate assistantship. It was a lot, but regardless, I think that it's totally doable. You don't have to. For me, I will say I prioritized school first and then filled in the gaps with real estate, because I wanted my degree and I was wanting the grades more than I was wanting the money. I was like, I'd rather take out loans and pass on the first time around than, have thousands and thousands of dollars and fail school. Like, you know what I mean? It just wasn't, I wanted to prioritize my master's program. So anyway, I think that answers your question, I hope. But anyways, I hope that this podcast was helpful for you guys, or maybe, inspires you to think about the next year or the next quarter or the next day, maybe. You got to start somewhere. And I think, just thinking about what you want for yourself and what you want for your future, it's really important. And even if it's just getting out of bed tomorrow, I think that's a great goal to start with. So, whatever that means to you, I support you, and I will see you guys next Friday. Love you guys very much. Goodbye.